Hi, welcome to Back on My Feet, the how-to manual for single parents. This module is how to prepare yourself, your children and your spouse for marriage, and I'm excited to be able to work with you and have this interaction so that we can know how to prepare for those who want to get married for the first time, or those who want to remarry because maybe they've gone through separation and divorce or the death of a spouse. So we'll be looking at that. And those who just got kids out of sexual sin, or they were never married but they got kids, then how do you prepare for marriage? Because it's very important. I would want to start with a story. My mom inherited a piece of land from my late grandfather, and because my mom is married many miles or kilometers away from her original home, she didn't have something to do with that piece of land, and so she asked my sisters and I if we would want to farm, and we were so excited. We are past our 20s, so we're excited to just try out farming. And so she explained to us how the farming works. She told us the season when the rains fall. Before that, we needed to have prepared the land, and she just gave us an entire plan on how to go about it. And so my sister and I, we were still discussing. She even told us which plants to be able to put our plant on that particular farm. And so we were preparing. And so the first time the rains fell, my mom called me, because now the brother who is my uncle was at that particular land and was like, oh, the kids have not done anything on the land. So my mom called me frantic, and she's like, you need to have prepared this, you need to have done this. And so we're like, no, we are going to do it. It's not a big deal. And so the rains came for a full week. And we tried to rush to go and prepare the land, which we did very quickly with the help of my uncle. And we planted 2 weeks post the time when other people had already planted. And so you can imagine the end of the story. Our plants did not make it. And we felt we had lost money, and we felt a little bit discouraged, and we're like, we're not going to farm again, it's not our thing. Now, from that story, there are a number of things that we learned, of course, about farming, which one of them is, I know I'm not very good at it, but like I'm good with other things, so I'm not very good at it. But there are also lessons we learned about life, which I would want to share with you in this module, even as we do the introduction on how to remarry. So one of the lessons that I learned from that story is that there is a time for everything. A time to sow and a time to harvest. And this is gotten from the book of Ecclesiastes, where there's always a season for everything. And so this particular time when you're single, it doesn't matter the cause of your single parenthood. We've already explored and even evaluated the reasons why we are here today. For some, it's the phone because of teenage sexual sin. Others, it's adult sexual sin. Others, it's the unfortunate separation and divorce. Others, it's the unfortunate event where a spouse passed on. Others is a rape deal. And so it doesn't matter why we are here, but we are already here. And so this season, you're alone, you're single, you're parenting your children, you don't have the other person, either your wife or your spouse, or the father or the mother of your children. And so at this particular time, you need to be looking at how to empower yourself, because this is the season that God sees fit that you should be alone. And so just being able to understand the purpose for this season will go a long way towards preparing you for marriage, if you want to marry, or remarriage if you're getting married again. So during my season of being a single parent, there are a number of things that I learned. One amazing book I read that has been out of stock for some time, but it's a book I really recommend to as many people as or many moms who are single. I don't have one for dads. Maybe that's some homework for me. The book is When Women Walk Alone by Cindy McMenamin. And it's a very amazing book, and the book removes the stigma from the fact that you're a single parent, and saying that this is a season for you to be able to strengthen your relationship with God, strengthen your relationship with your children, empower yourself. I mean, what are your gifts and talents? And we'll be looking more into this. What are your gifts? Because you'd want, when that spouse comes, they should find you when you're ready. They should find you at least in some level of knowing yourself, and that makes marriage very interesting and very enjoyable. And so if you can get hold of that book, it's a very good book to be able to get. Now, I stayed this 1 year, 2008 going to 2009. I did not get a job. I looked for a job in this city. I did not find it, and at that particular point, I can remember I felt God wanted me to spend more time growing myself spiritually. I discovered myself in ways I had never known myself before. I was able to spend many hours in prayer, many hours in reading the Word, many hours in reading good books like the one I've just recommended. And so it was a very good season. At that particular time, it was a low financial season, so I did not see it as a very good season. But now, looking back decades later, it was a very good season for me, because I had about maybe 6-8 hours of just studying the Word and being able to pray and know myself and explore and evaluate and reflect. And so just understand the season where it is that you are in, and that becomes important, because you don't want to waste this season doing something or worrying about things that are irrelevant. I know they're important, but they're irrelevant for this particular season. And so I'm very happy with that season looking back. But just to encourage you, just go back to God and ask Him, what is it that He desires for you to do at this particular season where you're single. Another lesson from my mom's farm is that whatever you sow, you shall reap. And so it was interesting, because at some point along the journey of the plant, everybody's farm was just green and flourishing and looking good, and ours was just this patch of brown dying plants. And we couldn't feel bad, because that's what we had sown. We had sown at a late season. We did not take the seasons very seriously, and so the other farmers who of course live there, most neighbors, they already live in their farms or on their farms, and their plants were looking very good. They were looking green, and they were happy with the results. Ours just died, and eventually we just had to till the land again, because there was nothing to even harvest. We didn't even have a chance to get anything. And so just know that this season you should focus on righteousness. You should focus on building yourself, building your children, because whatever it is that you are sowing right now, you shall reap in another season. The Bible does not lie. And so just being careful that you're doing that which God has told you to do. If He's called you to start a business, if He's called you to change jobs, if He's called you to move houses, if He's called you to spend more time with your children, if He's called, whatever it is that God has called you, please invest in that, because that is your sowing. And another season, maybe 2 years, 5 years, 10 years from now, you look back and you'll be able to reap and say, wow, I made a good investment, I sowed right, and so I am reaping right. Another lesson I learned from that experience with my mom's farm is that if you fall, get up, dust yourself, and try again. Now, I remember my sister and I just making this very firm comment to my mom and saying, we will never farm again. And she was like, don't say that, because you never know, you're growing. There are lessons that you've learned. If you want to do it next year or the following year, now you know at this particular point, this particular week, that's when you should start preparing the land. And so don't say that you never get married again because maybe somebody hurt you. Don't say that you never do something because you failed the first time. There's always a second opportunity. There's always a second chance. And sometimes from the failures that we experience, you realize that we actually become better when we do it the next time. So you already know what will work and what will not work. And so just know that if you failed in something, if something did not work out, maybe the fear of losing a spouse again because you've lost a spouse, maybe the fear of not trusting a man or a woman again because somebody else hurt you, those are things we can actually overcome. I'm not saying it's easy. I know it is not easy, but it's something that can be overcome, and you have a chance to even enjoy marriage again. Maybe I can share a story from my life. So when I now was open and I told God I would want to get married, and this is something I would really desire. And so I remember I had this notebook, because when you're spending so much time in prayer, you need to have a notebook where you write all the things that God is speaking to you, or the inspirations you're getting from reading the word. And in one of those mornings, I used to wake up, I think at 3 a.m. or maybe around 3:30, and I would spend like 3 hours praying and meditating and reading the word until about 6 a.m. when I would wake my daughter up and prepare her for school. And so on one of those, I remember writing the qualities of a husband that I was expecting. One, God had shared with me, or I knew that God was telling me was going to compensate me in terms of marriage, and I'm going to enjoy it. And so I wrote all these kind of things: tall, dark, handsome, with a lot of money. We had suffered so much financially with my daughter. I just needed somebody with a lot of money so that they can take away. For me, that was compensation. And so I remember, and then I did not want to get married to a man from a particular tribe because I had been hurt before. And so I remember when my husband now asked me, or proposed to me, asked me to marry him, and I was like, it was completely against all the immature carnal qualities I had written. And so I went back and I asked God, what was it that you were talking about compensation? So it's important that you're also getting that inspiration from God, because you don't want to refuse not to do things just because you failed in the past. Another lesson that I learned from my mom's farm, or farming in my mom's farm, was don't run away from your problems. Instead, you need to run into a solution. If you're coming from an abusive marriage, don't move or run away and get into another relationship. You need to move into a solution. If you're moving from something that is not working, you need to sit and think, what is it that you're getting into? So even if it's a season for you to be single, what can you be doing at this time? Because if you leave the space open, there's no vacuum in life, and so anything will come in and fill that space. And if you've not planned for that something, it could be a good thing, it could be a bad thing. And so just encouraging you that you need to be very deliberate. You can say, yes, I'm single, but I am going to go back to school, or I'm going to, get into this fellowship with these women in my church. You can just find a solution, something that you're getting into, because if for example you're used to living your life and sharing the bills with someone else, now your husband or your ex-husband, and then you move away and you don't have a plan for that, you find that another man could easily come and, you know, try and support you financially, and so you find yourself in another relationship that is not going to work because you don't have a plan. So don't just run away from your problems. Of course, don't stay in your problems, but don't just run away from your problems. Make sure that you're getting into a solution. And so for us, we're going to research more about farming. We are going to know to plan better. We talked to my uncle. We were like, he's going to do the planting for us. We'll pay him something. And so find a solution. What is the next step? So at this particular point for you and for your children, what is the next step? Remember that you're going through this roller coaster, or, you know, I can call it an emotional roller coaster. It's not just you going through, but your children are also going through the same. So what is the plan for them? And so make sure that you have that thought through. Thank you very much.